loopholes, and it gets government. If you close them, it gets government out of the business of picking the winners and losers because of lobbyists who've gotten this loophole in or that loophole in for individuals and for corporations. So we need to do that. The president has on his desk a bipartisan report from Simpson and Bowles that lays out a framework to get there. That framework is the same framework as Republican Chairman Paul Ryan has put out. There is tremendous common ground. And for this administration and this Congress to do nothing with it is bad. It's wrong for people.
Yeah, but the Republicans are blocking everything. I see it on the news.
It's on both. Well,
I see it on the news every day.
You know, both sides have gotten us into this mess, Dan.
Right. Oh, it's been building
both
for
sides.
years.
And it's going to take both sides to get us out. It's going to take qualified people on both sides having the courage to step up, reach across the aisle, and get the job done.
Well, when you say qualified people, are you talking about career politicians?
No.
You talking? I mean, I've always been a term limits guy.
I like term limits, actually.
It annoys me when people say we have term limits. No, you don't.
No, we don't.
You don't, because it's impossible, almost
Yep.
impossible to defeat someone who's entrenched in the system,
Right.
and knows all the rules, and knows all the ins and outs, and insider trading or whatever it is
Right.
you got to do to stay there. And
Right.
and unfortunately that's the biggest goal they have, is how do I stay here?
Exactly. They're more focused on the spin and winning the next election than they are doing the job for our families
And a lot of
our workers, our neighbors.
And I'll tell you right now, our congressional delegation in this state is no different. Do you think they really spend time in the district? Do they really go around? Do they really know where, who has the best fried clams? Do they really know?
I don't know that they do.
I
I don't think they do know their neighbors. When I walk down the street and I go to Stop and Shop, or I see my neighbors at church, or I see my neighbors at the playground, I know who they are. I talk to them. They tell me what's important to them. And they tell me what's important is jobs and the economy, and we need to get it fixed.
That's good. And you're big on is public service.
Yes,
Oh, there's the smile.
I believe in serving the public. I'm a doctor.
I've heard
And
that.
I am. And being a doctor is a great privilege, and it's an honor. But it's an honor that you have to work for, you earn it, and you keep earning it. And I feel the same way about being a politician. I feel that it's an honor and a privilege. It's not something we should just walk in and have handed to us. It's something that we should work for, and we should earn, and we should keep earning it. And when we stop earning it, people should vote us out of office, or our term limit should be up.
Yeah. Well, let me ask. So, would you term limit yourself if you were successful?
I think term limits are a really good idea. I like them, and I would consider that. I think you have to be there long enough to make a difference, but not so long that you become stale and out of touch with the
like
people
it's about
in your
90%
community.
of them in there now. Nationwide, they've just it's full of people that have been there so long.
Right.
They served under Jimmy Carter. I mean, that's too long to be doing that.
It is.
And it's time to put the public back in public service, and with all the perks and the power and everything.
Yeah.
It's a whole lifestyle.
Right. We shouldn't. People in Congress shouldn't have all these things that those of us in the real world don't have.
Right.
I mean, we used to send people to Congress that were real people in our community, people who'd worked and knew people. We would actually vote people in who we thought were the wiser, the people who had experience in our community. And now what we've got is people running so that they can be career politicians.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good plan.
No. Well, let's move on to something more fun, okay? And that's government regulations.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a small business. Talk to me about government regulations.
It just seems like we are so
We are.
overly regulated now.
We are.
The government is in our face from crib to grave.
It is.
And it's so out of hand. I mean, is there hope that we can get out of this and then back the government off a little bit? I mean, they're just in our faces.
Yeah. Yeah, I think regulations have run amok. And I think part of the problem, the principle is that life has risk. We all live with uncertainties.
Well, you took a risk. You came here
Yeah,
tonight.
you cannot regulate out all the risk. Regulations, when they work, are built to protect people from things that they can't possibly know.
Right.
But when we try to put out regulations just to get rid of all risk, we end up over-regulating, and the consequences are terrible. I'm a small business. The regulations are killing us. And the healthcare cost, because of the new healthcare plan and regulations, is particularly
pending healthcare.
a problem. Yes. And I think we should start with healthcare. I think we should repeal and replace the federal healthcare bill. And I think we should replace it with a much more visionary, prudent bill. And not what we've got, which is loaded with crazy regulations.
Oh, it is, and a lot of them have nothing to do with medical.
And a lot of them have nothing to do with medical.
Right, there's
That's
regulations in there about ownership of gold. I mean, it
Yes.
was just it was a big wish list for everybody who
Yes.
had everybody who had a thought.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's funny you bring up regulations, and there was a story in the news just this week. Okay, and I know you saw it. Everybody saw it. You all saw it. Okay, and that was the woman that was so overly suntanned and brought the little girl into the suntan,
Yes.
And 1 in a million, okay? And I'm just waiting. I've got bets on the outside there, which one of our lovely legislatures in Massachusetts, now this didn't even happen here, right? It's gonna be the first one to introduce a bill to keep kids out of tanning salons, completely. Because it's coming, because one person did it somewhere once, okay? We're gonna have to have a law against it. We're gonna have to have a bureaucracy to enforce it. We're gonna have, pages of regulations and everything, and it's insane, okay? And it's gotta stop.
Yeah, it's not good public policy to build a big public policy change around a single incident.
No. How long do you think before that happens? Before somebody at least
The
tries?
sun tanning beds?
Before at least somebody tries.
I'll give it 6 weeks.
6 weeks before, yeah.
You think that's being generous?
Well, I know there's been tanning, legislation to keep younger kids out of the booths and stop the booths and everything. But this is to actually keep them out of the sun tanning salons.
Right.
Okay, so 6 weeks.
I'll give it 6
I'll
weeks.
take 6 weeks. Okay, we got that. Yeah, all right, good. Okay, 6 weeks. I'm going to go with the under.
You're going to go less than that.
I'm going to go under. Okay. But yeah. Now, you're also a former school committee member.
Yes.
And you want to reform the education system.
Yes.
Reform is such a political word.
Oh, yeah.
Why do we need to reform? I mean, is it that usually you go to jail and you go there till you're reformed.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you like to change?
Well, when I think about this, I think about what's the problem, and then I think about what are the solutions. So I think there's some problems.
Oh, there definitely is.
One problem is that in some communities, you're just as likely to go to prison as you are to graduate from high school. That's a problem.
Okay.
Second problem is that schools right now are built more to appease teacher unions than they are to educate children.
Absolutely.
And the third problem is that if our children aren't educated, in order to compete in a global economy, our GDP will fall. We cannot have a democracy or a prosperous economy if we don't educate our kids. It depends on an educated citizenry. So it's in all of our best interests to make sure that our schools really work.
Right.
And I think there's several ways to approach that. One of them is to have those tough conversations with the teacher unions. It's not about beating up on...
They won't like you.
I know.
They won't like you.
It's not about beating up on the teachers. We have a lot of fabulous teachers out there who are working every day, very hard. But it's a gap between the teachers and the teacher union bureaucracy that is driving an agenda. And it's one of the reasons that I'm not a Democrat is because you cannot be beholden to unions for votes and money and be free to make decisions in the best interests of the public. Okay. It's a very big issue.
Now, I've got a question for you on that. Now, you made a good point about, there are stellar teachers. There's stellar people at every job.
There are, absolutely.
But you know what? When it all comes together, the teachers are their union. They elect their representatives. They, vote on their agenda. They vote on, this and that. So it is kind of, you can't kind of, give them a free pass.
No, you can't. But I think, I was on the negotiating team for the Brookline School Committee with our teachers, and I think when you're honest with them, most teachers want to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And the good teachers know who the good teachers are and who the bad teachers are.
Yeah.
And the good teachers don't want the bad teachers to keep teaching either.
Right.
And I think
Well, yeah,
it's about holding people accountable.
But then they fight tooth and nail to prevent teacher testing.
Well, I think the teacher unions do, but I think we should have I think evaluation is a really good thing. And evaluation tools should, the quality of our teachers is the single most important element of an excellent
Well, it's
school.
a very important job.
It
and you know
is.
what? You have to be recertified to do a multitude of things that may not be, they're important, but they may not be as lifelong important as being a teacher. You
Right.
think that the teachers themselves would want to be tested to
Exactly.
make sure that they're doing the best they can.
Right.
You hear, they buy supplies, this and that. No, don't buy the supplies. Get tested. Have some testing, and get rid of this tenure, and be able to have keep good teachers and get rid of the ones that aren't so good in the way they do anything else. I mean, it's for the children. It's not for the children. If
Right.
they're going to be that way, it's not for the children. I have a real problem with that.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that testing is one element of teacher evaluation. Peer evaluation is another one. Supervisory evaluation. And I think we should have student and parent evaluation, actually.
Yeah. Now, just to get away from some of these issues, you realize as a congressman, you're going to have to deal with some issues above and beyond that, and you're going to have to deal with foreign policy and defense.
Yes.
Okay. So bombers
Yes.
and whatnot. What are your thoughts towards some of these issues? Foreign policy. Are you pleased with the current foreign policy? Do you understand where we are with this?
Yeah, I'm not pleased with President Obama's approach to foreign policy.
Okay.
I think
He is.
He is.
Yes.
I am not. I believe that the world is a dangerous place, and we cannot be naive. We have friends around the globe, like Israel, and we may not agree with everything that Israel does in its domestic policy, but at the end of the day, they are the democracy in the Middle East, and they are our ally, and we should not hedge to the world about where we stand with them. We have enemies like Iran, South Korea. Representative
North
Frank,
Korea.
I'm sorry, North Korea. Sorry about that. Misspoke.
Careful.
Yes, thank you very much. I misspoke.
We actually
North
have
Korea.
a South Korean guy that watches the show.
Yes,
No, I'm sure we have more than
South
one.
Korea is our tremendous ally, actually. North Korea.
Yeah.
Representative Frank would tell us that we can solve our deficit spending problem on the backs of the Defense Department. We cannot. The truth is that the Defense Department, like every other department in Washington, is going to have to tighten its belt. But even if you cut the Defense Department 25%, that only gives you $175 billion a year. Now, your math is probably pretty good, Dan. My math, 1.4 trillion does not equal 175 billion. You cannot solve our deficit spending problem on defense. And I think the place we have to think about is very strategically being mindful about what conflicts we enter. It doesn't mean that we won't ever enter a conflict around the globe. We probably will again. But it does mean to be very careful and to gradually, incrementally step towards that conflict and not jump in before we've done our due diligence and really understand what we're stepping into.
Do you think the strength of our military has been diluted over the years?
I do.
Okay.
I think that the Navy in particular is critical in a global economy. China is definitely saber-rattling around their control of the South China Sea, and we must have a strong Navy. As you might guess, I'm married to a Navy veteran, so I particularly feel that way. The budget that they've put out around the Navy ship quota is completely unrealistic, and what we are doing is we are tamping down the pipeline of building and research and technology and innovation for the Navy of the future. They say we were going to have a 300-ship Navy. At minimum, they think we should have a 345-ship Navy, and what they're putting out in this president's administration is for a 245-ship Navy. There's a big gap there. We in Massachusetts are very dependent. We have a big economy around defense development and innovation. It's one of our strongest areas of industry here.
Yeah, considering we really don't have a lot of bases here, we do a lot of...
We do a lot, yeah. And it is really important for our economy that we continue to support that kind of high-tech innovation that makes us the leading military power in the world.
That's us.
Yeah, that is us.
Okay. A couple of questions back on the health care. Okay, you're not a big Obamacare fan.
I do not think it was visionary.